Hello, so it is Monday night, which is the new Sunday night for this week because, of course, we've had a US holiday today, June the 19th. I just want to have a little bit of a warning about this week. Seasonally, the week following June options expiration, the quad witching, which we saw on Friday, is a pretty ugly week for stock indexes. Usually I'm not saying this is going to be the high, we're going to enter a new bear market, it's all over. Clearly we're in a very strong uptrend and at risk of a little bit of a pullback or correction, and I think that we could see that and see what it turns into. Now, normally, especially if you rally into the week before, that kind of makes it more than 70% likely that we see a pullback this week. But this is one of those really unusual months where the VIX options, which normally would expire the same week as stock index options, don't expire until this week on Wednesday. So they expire on Wednesday the 21st, and the final trades in these VIX options are close of play on Tuesday. And because so many people tend to hedge against pullbacks in stock markets using the VIX, these VIX options, the market tends to hold up until those options expire, because all those people hedging in VIX, they can't be allowed to win, clearly. And so this month, unusually, rather than seeing weakness this week, I think that we could see a little bit of we're unlikely to collapse on Tuesday, let's put it that way. But once those options stop trading on Tuesday and Wednesday onwards, I think that we are vulnerable to a bit of a bigger pullback in stock indexes. Quite a lot of these indexes, particularly the NASDAQ, have reached some pretty big levels for a correction. Again, I'm not saying we're not in an uptrend. I'm not saying the world is about to end. I'm just saying this is one of those weeks where we would normally see a correction. I also last night spoke about the dollar, that we potentially were at a level where we could see a bounce, and we did get a nice bounce in this dollar. Now, my main reason for thinking that was because we were at a big level in the euro dollar. Now, if I take that away, let's talk about where we are, because our flat sideways daily moving averages are not inspiring. But if I take this most recent swing high to low here in this euro dollar, the reason I think that we're at a pullback level in the euro dollar is from this low to high. So this is our most recent swing. We bounced from a 786, a very nice sharp fib, got above the 61.8, which confirmed the reversal. When you do that, you have two targets. The first was this 38.2 here, which is where the daily 50 was, and we closed above it. Happy days. And your second target would be a backtest to this 236 fib, which is what we did. So, and at this point, I would expect a pullback back into these moving averages to see if we find support. Now, normally, if you're going to be really bullish, and this isn't just a sideways range trade, we shouldn't come back underneath this daily 50 and this 38.2 level. And if we do, we are vulnerable in this euro dollar to another swing lower. Remember, in both of these indexes, I thought that the dollar and the euro dollar, I thought that we were vulnerable to a bigger, like this, say hi to that daily 200 moving average. So for me, I think that we are going to see, after, the dollar got really, really beaten up last week, I think that we could see a pullback. And in the euro dollar, I think we could pull back to 1.08 and the daily 50 moving average. Now, again, I don't think on Tuesday we could see a little bit of a bounce. It does look like we've made a nice three-wave correction here lower. But after Wednesday, I think that we will see potentially another leg lower in the euro dollar and a bigger bounce in the dollar, which would mean a pullback in quite a lot of things. The big news central bank-wise this week is the Bank of England on Wednesday, and there's a big level in the pound dollar looming for me at 129. it's a big 236 fib level, fib retrace, normally the first one, and it comes, if we go to the monthly, it comes all the way to the high that we made in 2007. I know that's a long way back. So that's a big deal level that I'm watching for. If they hike more, I think that is a level where we could see a little bit of a bigger pullback, potentially in the pound dollar. So for now, still got room to go higher in that one. Okay, just a word about these stock indexes before I get onto crypto. The reason I think that we're a big level here in the NASDAQ, which has been leading the charge, hasn't it? So I've got my fibs from high to low. You can see very nice weekly moving averages and a very nice weekly trend. And just a big fib level. Now we confirm these fibs with this lovely reaction at the 236 fib. If I put in the 38.2, we had a lovely reaction there. It was resistance, then support. The 50% we blasted through. We paused for 3 weeks at this 61.8 here. You can see sideways at support. And now we're at that 786 fib level, which are normally quite sharp. Now, I'm not saying that we can't just blast through and keep going to the 886. Of course, 886 is the square root of 786, which is the square root of 61.8. So 886, that's why it's a fib level for me. But this is, for me, just one of those levels where I think that we might pause at. Now, we haven't quite reached that level in the S&P. There is room to go a little bit higher. In the S&P, 45.28 is the level that I'm looking for to be resistance in the S&P. The S&P really likes a 786 fib retrace. So from the high we made in January last year, that is the 786. Also, if I measure this first swing higher and I project it from the low here after this correction, then 45.28 is also the equal measured move. So a lot kind of lining up for this to be resistance. Now, we could very easily in this pullback this week see a little bit of a wave 4 here before one more push higher into that swing, couldn't we? So then we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. I'm not saying that this week will be the high, you know, we're going to hell. I'm just saying that seasonally, June is a very tricky sideways month, and this particular week is not normally a very good bullish week. Okay, let's finally get on to Bitcoin, because we've had some really much better news for Bitcoin last week, in that the restraining order on Binance, they were able to do a deal with the SEC, which is quite positive. Just the fact that they were able to do any deal at all with the SEC is quite positive. Certainly it was taken that way at Ripple. And of course the news of the BlackRock ETF, which, yeah, that's a big deal. Just because it opens up so many more people to Bitcoin trading. You know, Bitcoin adoption, of course, is what we need for really Bitcoin to take off. But it is very good news. So we've bounced off, this is a daily chart of Bitcoin. We bounced off this really good 25,000 level. Our 25,000 level was our 38.2 fib retrace from this low here. And if we are counting this differently and come more bullish, this is wave 1, 2, and we've just done wave 1 of 3. This is also 50% of this most recent swing. So pretty important. Nice confluence of support. It's also back test of the neckline, wasn't it, of this bottoming pattern. We made 25,000, big round number, and very nice reaction. The problem is we haven't gone quite far enough to confirm the bottom here. You can see that when we had the really nice sharp rally at the end of May, we failed at the daily 50 moving average, and this is where we have failed to get above here today. Also, you can see that the daily 50 moving average previously support 3 days here, 4, 5 days here. The daily 50 moving average is quite a big deal technically, but previously we've rallied, failed to get above it, pulled back, and once we've gotten above it, one thing I will say about the 50 moving average especially if it's lined up the wrong way. Once you get above it, you tend to see, if you can close above it, you tend to see a really strong move. So if we can close above this daily 50 moving average, which is at 27,000 even, then if we close above that and then trade above a back test of this 236 fib level, I will say that we've confirmed a bottom. But for me, the back test of that fib level is the most important level. Now, this trend line, I'm not a huge fan of trend lines, but if we get the most touches, I suppose, and line it up with this high, that kind of also represents a trend line break. So above 27,371, which is the back test of this 236 fib, above the daily 50 and out of this trend line. And I think, yeah, we've definitely got, so for longs, people who bought at 25,000, this is kind of your first target. So if you get up here, it's one of those levels where you might want to take a little bit of profit and wait for the pullback to buy. So that's how I'm seeing Bitcoin. For now, again, I think this could be a tricky week, which is pretty good because we're looking for two things. We're looking for one, will Bitcoin outperform and break out anyway, because it's been going the other direction. And if, you know, if you're bullish and if we get a lovely solid 5 waves up here, then a nice 3-wave pullback would be a pretty good, back to our moving averages, would be a really nice long entry as well. So yeah, it's just Wednesday for the rest of it. Just, we need to watch out for Wednesday, really, and see what happens then. So again, I'm not expecting a big collapse in markets Tuesday, but I think Wednesday onwards, seasonally, this week is a little bit of a tricky week. And we have not broken out of this downtrending channel, declining wedge, whatever, in Bitcoin until we get above 27,371. The other thing, of course, is, you know, Bitcoin very often when it bottoms likes to come back and retest these levels and make pretty, you know, nasty double bottoms. So, you know, here we made a low, didn't we, on the 10th of November, and then we came back and tested it 11 days later, marginal new low, and then we never looked back. And it does kind of like to do that, the Bitcoin or the crypto retest and slightly lower low. So yeah, looking pretty good. Trade carefully, buy pullbacks. So short term, you know, we're a little bit yeah, it's a little bit toppy here, isn't it? And I kind of am very nervous of rallies that well ahead of the US Open. So potentially, you know, we've got a little bit of a swing failure. I'm leaning towards bullish though. I'm leaning towards testing this 27,300 previous highs and lows. You can see what a really good level it is as well, and we'll go from there. In ETH, we've got similar thing going on, really nice bullish reversal. One thing you can say about ETH is it's lagging a little bit. So, you know, sometimes you can let Bitcoin make the move and see if ETH's gonna follow on. In terms of fib levels, if we take the most recent swing in ETH, we're bouncing from the 61.8. And for me, that means you've got to get above the 50. This is our resistance. So 1755 is our resistance here in ETH. And above it, we should see 1846. And above 1846 is a breakout. That's how I'm kind of seeing this channel here on the daily. So for now, this is unfortunately still just a bounce and a downtrend, still potentially a little bit of a declining wedge, and it's not a parallel channel. But that would be our above 1846 confirms the breakout, and 1755 short term is our resistance in ETH. Just with this fib on this most recent swing. If I take this from the lows, kind of gives us a little bit higher of a breakout confirmation level, 1889, but I'm going to go with the lower one. I like to see fibs, you know, working. So if the levels have been respected, then I lean on them, you know, if they keep getting done, because it means everybody is kind of looking at the same thing. So we had a pause back test of this 236, 38.2, 50 was very sharp. So all of these levels, so you know, you can say even if you don't call them a fib, they're pretty good support and resistance levels, aren't they? So yeah, 1751 pretty key here on the daily in ETH, and it is lagging. It's underperforming Bitcoin. Now, of course, they're going to have to buy a lot of Bitcoin to have a Bitcoin ETF. So we're going to have one of those periods where potentially Bitcoin really does outperform. And it's certainly not alt season, is it? Now, there's a couple of alts that I see people talking about. I'm just going to take a quick look at them. One of them is this Stacks. Now, when I look at the moving averages for Stacks, this looks pretty lovely, doesn't it? Lovely 5 waves up, lovely pullback to daily 200 moving average, and pretty nice reaction down here. Again, if back above this daily 50 would see us pretty nice bullish reversal. The way I'm calculating this though is I'm looking at the fibs from this low to this high. As you know, I look at them like a ladder. I like to see them respected. We bounced really nicely from a 786 fib reversal here. When you bounce at a 786, you confirm the reversal if you close above the 61.8, which also lines up perfectly with really good support and resistance, and the daily 50 moving average. So if you're long, if you've bought the bounce here in Stacks, the level you're going to be watching is 0.624. 0.624 is what we really need to close above to get our really nice bullish reversal pattern. Now, when you bounce from a 786 fib and you close above the 61.8, your first target is this 38.2, which would mean 0.8865. And then the second target is the 236, which is 1.049. So you can see this is a really nice trade if we can close above here and break out. I'd really like to see a good bottoming pattern here. So break above, come back, find support. You know, this is also, you can see, very nice support and resistance here in Stacks. That would give you the, if you wanted to be conservative, that would give you the kind of confirmation, wouldn't it? So first target, but it's not a trade unless we can get above 0.624, and that's the most important target for me. Okay, there's one other one that we've been watching that's doing very well, which is KAS. Now this is in a better position. Now again, I've got my fibs from the all-time lows to highs. Let's put regular candles on in Casper, and bounced very nicely from a 786. You can see first time back to this 61.8, nasty sharp retrace, really good support and resistance, but now we've broken above it and we're holding above it today. Pretty nice bullish candle too, above the daily 50 moving average. So this KAS is in a much better position, broken out. If we hold here and we get a breakout from this consolidation, first target is going to be this 38.2 fib at 0.029, and the second target, if we go beyond here, is up at 0.0349. So yeah, that's how it looks when it works and you break above it. And this also is a very nice 3-wave pullback. You're kind of looking for these swings to be equal, which they kind of look. So it looks pretty good to me. I'm going to count this, so I'm going to look at it on the 4-hour. I'm going to count this as a bullish flag, and I'm looking for a breakout in this KAS. Now again, this might not work if everything gets better, but I'm hoping that this, even if we have a bit of a nasty pullback week, this has a really nice breakout and not another swing lower. And so those are what I'm looking for in Casper. Okay, I hope that's useful. Send me any requests. Speak soon. Thanks.